It may be the most famous garage in the world, not because of what it looked like, not because it was large, and certainly not because anyone thought it was important at the time. In 1939, it was just a small rented property in Palo Alto. A garage, a shed, a modest living space. Nothing remarkable. Yet from this ordinary location emerged a story that would become one of Silicon Valley's founding myths. The story of two engineers, one idea, and a new model for how innovation could happen. Today, startup founders often dream of building the next billion-dollar company. Accelerators exist. Venture capital firms exist. Startup culture exists. Entire industries have formed around entrepreneurship. In 1939, almost none of that existed. There was no Silicon Valley, no startup ecosystem, no venture capital industry in the modern sense, no roadmap for building a technology company. The Santa Clara Valley was still known more for orchards than electronics. Apricots, prunes, agriculture. Yet beneath the surface, change was beginning. Stanford University was producing talented engineers. Research capabilities were growing, and one professor had started encouraging students to think differently. His name was Frederick Terman. Terman believed something unusual. Instead of leaving California after graduation, talented engineers should stay. Instead of working for established companies elsewhere, they should build companies here. Instead of treating technical knowledge as purely academic, they should commercialize it. Today, this sounds normal. At the time, it was revolutionary. Among the students influenced by Terman were two young engineers, William Hewlett, David Packard. Neither knew they were about to become part of Silicon Valley history. Because Silicon Valley didn't exist yet, they were simply trying to build something useful. On January 1st, 1939, Hewlett and Packard officially founded their company, Hewlett-Packard. Their resources were limited. Their ambitions were large. Their workspace was small. The property at 367 Addison Avenue in Palo Alto included a garage, a shed, and modest living quarters. Contrary to popular mythology, HP wasn't built entirely inside the garage. Work occurred throughout the property. The garage simply became the most memorable symbol. And symbols matter, especially in hindsight. At the time, nobody looked at the garage and saw the future. They saw two engineers trying to start a company. The company's first major success wasn't a computer. Computers as we know them didn't exist. Instead, Hewlett and Packard built an electronic test instrument called the HP 200A audio oscillator. Not exactly the kind of product that inspires Hollywood movies. Yet it solved a real problem. The device delivered high quality at a lower cost than competing alternatives. And customers noticed. One customer proved especially important: the Walt Disney Company. Disney purchased several oscillators for use during production of Fantasia. It wasn't merely a sale. It was validation. Proof that a tiny company could compete through technical excellence. A pattern was beginning to emerge. Many technology companies existed before Hewlett-Packard. HP was not the first startup. It was not the first engineering company. And it did not create Silicon Valley by itself. So why does HP matter so much? Because it became a model, a blueprint, a demonstration that a different path was possible. Engineers could become founders. Universities could produce entrepreneurs. Technical expertise could become commercial success. Today, those ideas seem obvious. In the 1930s and 1940s, they were still being tested. HP helped prove they could work. And once a model works, others begin copying it. As Hewlett-Packard grew, it established norms that would later become associated with Silicon Valley itself. Technical excellence, long-term innovation, strong engineering culture, close connections between universities and industry, employee-focused management. Perhaps most importantly, HP demonstrated that world-class technology companies could be built in Northern California. That lesson had enormous consequences, because every successful company reduces uncertainty for the next founder. What once seemed impossible begins to feel achievable. The startup becomes a precedent, then a pattern, then an ecosystem. Over time, the region would produce hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands of startups. But every ecosystem has early examples, and Hewlett-Packard became one of the most influential. Today, the HP garage is often called the birthplace of Silicon Valley. Historians debate whether that title is literally accurate. After all, Silicon Valley emerged through many forces: Stanford, defense research, semiconductors, venture capital, immigration, entrepreneurial networks. No single garage created all of that, but perhaps the title survives because of what the garage represents: a small beginning, an ambitious idea, a willingness to experiment, the belief that technical knowledge could become something larger. In that sense, the garage became less important as a physical place and more important as a symbol of possibility. Throughout Bay Origins, we've explored how the Bay Area repeatedly transformed itself. The gold rush attracted dreamers. Stanford developed talent. Trade connected the region to the world. Innovation culture emerged over generations. Now we encounter one of the first recognizable startup stories. Not because HP was the largest company or the first company, but because it embodied a new model. Engineers creating companies, universities supporting entrepreneurship, ideas becoming products, products becoming industries. The HP garage did not create Silicon Valley, but it helped create the narrative that Silicon Valley would tell about itself, a narrative that still influences founders around the world. Which brings us back to the question at the heart of Bay Origins. Why did it happen here? Perhaps because the Bay Area became one of the first places where ambitious engineers were encouraged not merely to invent, but to build. The innovator's ledger. Lesson 1. Start with a real problem. HP's first success wasn't glamorous. It was useful. The company succeeded because it solved a practical engineering problem better than existing alternatives. Innovation begins with usefulness. Lesson 2. Mentorship multiplies talent. Frederick Terman didn't build Hewlett-Packard, but his influence helped make it possible. The lesson: great ecosystems are often created by mentors who invest in future builders. Lesson 3. Symbols matter. The garage became famous not because of the building itself, but because of what it represented. Stories shape culture. Culture shapes behavior. Behavior shapes ecosystems. The narratives people believe can influence what they attempt. The HP garage became a symbol because two engineers decided to act on an idea rather than wait for perfect conditions. What project are you postponing today because you're waiting for circumstances to improve? It was never really about the garage. It was about the mindset, the belief that expertise could become enterprise, that engineers could become founders, and that small beginnings could lead to extraordinary outcomes. A modest property in Palo Alto became a symbol of something much larger: the emergence of the startup, and with it, a new chapter in the story of the Bay Area. This is Bay Origins, birthplace of the future.